Social media, at least in its current form, is finished. I'm not just talking about the possible ban on TikTok in the United States that made headlines last month. This is much bigger than that. The online world that we've inhabited over the past 15 years or so is about to change dramatically. In this video, I'm going to explain why astrology is telling us that the end is nigh for social media as it currently exists and what it might look like in the future. So strap yourselves in for another journey into the past to understand the present and the future. It's estimated that 4.3 billion people, that's more than half the population of the entire planet, now own a smartphone. And you can bet that the vast majority of them are using social media apps. And as we all know very well by now, these apps are fiendishly addictive. They rely on hooking our brains to hits of dopamine using the same design principles as slot machines. Of course, the world of social media is also highly illusory. The way we present ourselves on Instagram is simply not who we really are. These platforms encourage us to consciously curate an image of ourselves that's richer, happier, and more attractive than reality. So it should come as no surprise that, according to many researchers, social media has led to an epidemic of mental illness, particularly among young people who've had to grow up with these tools mediating their lives. So in social media, we have a phenomenon that's addictive, illusory, and linked to mental health issues. Now, it just so happens that there's a planet in astrology that's linked to all of these qualities and to media in general, and that planet is Neptune. And wouldn't you know, Neptune became extremely powerful just as social media and smartphones began to take off. If you're enjoying this video, then please do click the like button for me and let YouTube know that. And remember, you can always subscribe if you want to make sure you don't miss out on future episodes. Now, before we really get into the video, I want to tell you about something new and exciting I've been cooking up for you in recent weeks. Making the content on this channel is a huge amount of work, and guests aside, I do pretty much all of it myself. And doing client readings on top of that means I often have to work 7 days a week to keep this whole operation running. Now, I'm not asking for any kind of sympathy here. I honestly feel incredibly lucky to be doing this work, but the way I've been working isn't sustainable in the long run. That's why I'm launching a paid subscription service for World Astrology Report. This is a way for you to support my work and help keep this channel running, but there's a lot of stuff in it for you should you choose to sign up. The World Astrology Report Members Club will give you access to exclusive content, because many of my videos, including this one, will now have a special extended version for subscribers only, in which we'll go deeper into the topics of the video or explore themes that aren't for public consumption. And you'll be able to watch all my videos completely ad-free. And I may even drop them for members a bit earlier sometimes. You'll also get access to exclusive live streams, such as Q&A sessions. And last but not least, you'll get access to an exclusive discussion forum, which is almost ready to go and will be launched in the coming days. I'm hoping we can create a community there of people interested in world astrology, geopolitics, and all the other stuff we get into on this channel. So if you'd like to be a part of all this, then head over to my new website, worldastrologyreport.com. The link is in the description below. An exclusive extended version of this very episode is already uploaded in the members area and ready for you to enjoy. And an extended version of a forthcoming video on Pluto in Aquarius that won't come out for a few days on YouTube is also available on the site. So you can watch not one, but two brand new extended videos right now. So thanks for listening, and let's get back to the subject of this video. The Zodiac can be seen as a representation of the journey of life. In Aries, the first sign, we're cleaved from our mother and begin life as an independent entity through taking bold action, exploring and doing what feels instinctively right. We discover and express our authentic self. But Pisces is the last sign, the end of the journey, when we rejoin source and return like a drop in the ocean of consciousness. It's a sign that tends to dissolve boundaries between the self and the other, This is why Pisces is associated with empathy, martyrdom, and self-sacrifice. Modern astrologers consider Neptune to be the ruler of Pisces, while traditional astrologers give the sign to the traditional ruler, Jupiter. But regardless of whether or not Neptune rules Pisces, it clearly has a strong affinity with that sign. If signs are like filters, then Pisces lets all of Neptune's ghostly light shine through. In other words, the things Neptune signifies, including orientation to the spiritual, delusion, addiction, and the erasing of boundaries, all become stronger when Neptune is in that sign. Neptune transitioned into Pisces in 2010 and 2011. Just before that, in 2008, Google launched the Android operating system, which democratized the smartphone, and social networks quickly began to take much more advantage of their photographic capabilities. And a landmark came in 2010 when Instagram was launched. And we all know what happened after that. Billions of humans have been plunged into an addictive and illusory world accessible through the screens of our smartphones. This is an oceanic world in which, in theory at least, we're all connected. But according to many researchers, this brave new world has had serious consequences for mental health. The New York University psychologist Jonathan Haidt has singled out 2012 as the year when mental health problems among young Americans began to skyrocket. Here are charts showing the percentage of teens with major depression and undergraduates with a mental illness. In both charts, you can see a steep takeoff around 2012. This to me is a stark demonstration of astrology's validity. We see a huge takeoff in mental health problems when the planet associated with those very things gained in strength. Haidt thinks social media is to blame, and he's far from the only one. I think most of us, if we're being honest, can feel intuitively that social media isn't doing us any good. But I think this era of social media is about to come to an end, and astrology is telling us this in multiple ways. In March of last year, Saturn joined Neptune in Pisces. Saturn and Neptune are very different influences. If Neptune is about the transcendental, imaginal, and illusory, then Saturn signifies the real, the material, and the concrete structures of the world. Because Saturn is interested in that which endures, it tends to put the brakes on things. It says, is this realistic? Does it make sense? Is it built to last? And often, Saturn simply says no. It demands that we set limits or boundaries or rules around things. But it will often accomplish this by adding weight to an issue, making it feel so heavy and laden with import that we just can't ignore it. As an example, something else I think Neptune in Pisces has signified is increasing levels of migration, which has become an issue of contention across the world right now. We're seeing a lot of political division around this question of how porous borders should be. Some are pushing for essentially open borders, while others are arguing for stricter limits to migration. And we're seeing laws and schemes being put in place intended to control and regulate migration. Those laws are the fruit of Saturn's presence in Pisces. And I think we're also going to see a similar dynamic around social media. In April last month, President Joe Biden signed the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. This law will effectively ban TikTok unless the Chinese company that owns it, ByteDance, sells it. US lawmakers believe the app is being used by China to influence public opinion, spread disinformation, and spy on Americans. But I think this move is really just the start of how things are going to change on social media. One way to read Saturn in Pisces is as the materialization of the imaginal. And Saturn in Pisces and Pluto in Aquarius have signified the emergence of powerful generative AI tools that can generate multimedia content quickly and easily from text or other kinds of prompt. But this is already having an impact on the quality of our experience on the internet. Here's a tweet from a user who says he looked at his mum's Facebook feed and he says it was nothing but fake posts showing fake people making fake stuff. And these posts have thousands of likes and comments. We don't even know if the people commenting on these things are real. At the same time, AI is getting incredibly good at creating deepfakes of real people. There are tools on the market now that can create highly realistic fake videos of people from just one photograph of them and a short sample of their voice.
Look at these two clips. One of them is real and one of them is fake. Can you tell which one it is? maybe you're some wizard and you could tell, but I couldn't.
These tools aren't quite perfect yet, but they're getting close and improving very quickly. And a lot of people can't even tell the fake from the real as things already stand. So we're soon going to be looking at a situation where we can't trust anything we see on social media, if that's not already the case. Add an election year in the US into the mix, and you have a recipe for chaos. And that is borne out by the astrology of the coming year. On May the 25th, Jupiter, planet of growth and expansion, will move into Gemini, the curious, communicative sign of the twins. In Gemini, Jupiter is seen as being in a state of debilitation that astrologers call detriment or exile. Jupiter in Gemini can have an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, but it will often try to expand in every direction without discipline and struggle to focus on any one thing. And when Jupiter is debilitated, its relationship with the truth can be challenged, can even be associated with deceit. And so Jupiter in Gemini looks to be signifying an avalanche of AI-generated content, much of it misleading. We're going to find it hard to know what's real and what isn't, or even who's real. As this famous New Yorker cartoon from 1993 had it, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. But on today's internet, nobody knows you're an AI either. We're already seeing AI-generated influencers commanding massive followings. So putting what we're seeing in the world and in the astrology together, it looks to me like our experience on social media is going to degrade massively, as if it wasn't bad enough already. And I think that more and more people are going to simply opt out of these platforms as the waters become increasingly flooded with spurious and fraudulent content. But remember, Saturn tends to create new rules. So we'll likely also see more legislation around the world to tackle fake content and what's deemed misinformation and disinformation, like the TikTok law. But where is all this heading? Well, astrology gives us a big clue, because next year, Saturn and Neptune will move into Aries. Aries is very much about the self. It's about being authentic and learning who we are as we test our will and explore the world. And it has a lot to do with identity. And so I suspect that the theme of identity on the internet is one that's going to come to the fore with Neptune in Aries. Neptune is going to transition into Aries over the course of 2025 and early 2026. But it's actually going to make that transition with Saturn, which will start to get very close to Neptune early next year. We'll see an exact conjunction of these two planets at the first degree of Aries in February 2026. I think Saturn and Neptune's move into Aries could very well signify the introduction of systems of digital identification that prove that users are human. This could even be a single universal system applying across the internet, or maybe a small number of them spanning the current major geopolitical divisions. And funnily enough, it seems that big tech is ready to step in with solutions. One example of this is WorldCoin, a cryptocurrency project co-founded by none other than Sam Altman of OpenAI fame. WorldCoin is a cryptocurrency, but to get an account, you have to have your iris scanned by one of these things called an orb, which gives you what it calls a world ID, which is not sinister at all. I think that it's quite possible that we're heading into a new world of social media in which anonymity is made a thing of the past, at least on the public oceanic social networks that are still common today. But there's something else about Aries that we need to factor in, and that's its rulership by Mars, the war planet. The last time Neptune entered Aries was February the 13th, 1862, the day after the American Civil War began. In 1862, Abraham Lincoln appointed Edwin Stanton as his Secretary of War and granted him sweeping powers to reroute all telegraph lines into his headquarters. This allowed Stanton to monitor all the information that was coming in about the war. He used his powers to censor the press and even to arrest journalists who weren't towing the line. Lincoln himself used to spend hours in the War Office reading telegrams. So there's a strong possibility that in our forthcoming Neptune in Aries transit, a backdrop of conflict will heavily influence the social media environment. In short, we're likely to see much more censorship. And as a result of that, as well as the generally degraded experience online, I think people will increasingly move to private encrypted networks, both to get access to uncensored information and to express what they really think. Now, this is already happening in certain parts of the world. For example, the encrypted communication app Telegram has played a huge role in the war between Russia and Ukraine. People on both sides of that war have used it extensively to exchange information and get round state censorship. I think Telegram and apps like it partly represent the future of social media, assuming that fresh efforts to ban encryption aren't successful. As I discussed in this video, I think one major trend will be a move towards decentralized social networks. Again, that's something that's already happening. And one more possibility for the future of media comes to mind. Aries, as we've seen, is about the self. Something the new wave of AI tools promise is the creation of unique content that's tailored to the individual. In other words, based on what it knows about your likes, dislikes, and habits, AI will soon be able to create video content that's designed to be maximally entertaining to you and you only. I can't see this technology appearing overnight, but Neptune will be in Aries until 2038. That's a long time, given how quickly AI is evolving. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll find that possibility quite repellent. It promises to seal us all in our own worlds and take away our shared cultural reference points. What will you talk about at the water cooler when nobody is watching or reading the same stuff? That said, something to take hope from is that Neptune in Pisces has probably seen the high watermark in terms of internet addiction. Perhaps more and more of us will start to see that staring into a phone, indulging in masturbatory fantasy instead of living in the real world is a dead end. Others, I'm afraid, may be drawn deeper in. We shall see. What I'm confident about is that the era of the great oceanic social media networks is coming to an end. It may take some time for things to change as Neptune moves through Aries, but change it surely will. And when it does, I think we'll look back on this period that began with Neptune's transition into Aries in 2010 as a long and very strange dream. But we're about to wake up, and that has to be a good thing. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, then I suggest you watch this video that I mentioned earlier, in which I was joined by astrologer and developer Wei to explore some of the wilder possibilities around the future of the internet. Thanks, and see you next time.